We live in interesting times. Today's stories. Australians vote in its first climate election. Kinshasa residents decry rivers of plastic waste. Victims react as the poisoning doctor is released on bail. HIV outbreak sparks panic in southern Pakistan. For Venezuelan chronic patients, humanitarian aid is a distant prospect. Born under IS, sick Iraqi children are left undocumented and untreated. Dr. Katie Bowman says the first black hole image was hugely significant. Plus, Toronto Comic Arts Festival celebrates emerging artists. Hello everyone, I am Rose Papa Angeles, bringing you stories from around the globe. And this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Exit polls in Australia's climate-dominated election campaign pointed on Saturday to a win for Labor after 6 years of Conservative rule. Between 16 and 17 million people were expected to vote across the vast island continent in a bitterly fought election that may be the first anywhere decided by climate policy. As the first polls closed, a 9 Galaxy exit poll showed Bill Shorten's Labor beating the government Liberal coalition 54-48, which would signal a clear parliamentary majority for the opposition. A second poll for 10 Network showed a similar margin of victory. Casting his ballot in Melbourne, would-be Prime Minister Shorten was bullish about forming a majority government after a final poll before the vote showed his lead increasing. Referring to the tradition of serving grilled sausages on Election Day, he said, quote, "Today is the People's Day. Be it buying a democracy sausage, the kids having a bit of a sugar cake or what have you, and voting." Weeks ago, Prime Minister Scott Morrison's Conservative Liberals had been heading for an electoral drubbing, but he has closed the gap with a negative campaign and backing from the country's biggest media organization owned by Rupert Murdoch, mainly targeting older, wealthier voters who face fewer tax breaks under Labor. After casting his vote in Sydney suburbs, Morrison acknowledged the challenge his coalition faced, saying, "I don't take anyone's support in this country for granted." Hitting the Conservatives' key talking points against Labor, he said, "Australians know very well what it is we are saying in terms of keeping our economy strong, keeping our budget under control, keeping Australians safe and secure." But anger over his government's inaction on climate change may prove the real difference between the two parties. Australia is one of the most vulnerable of all developed nations to climate change, and a season of record floods, wildfires, and droughts have brought the issue from the political fringes to front and center of the campaign.
Well, I think our politicians lack vision. They're only looking at the short term. They're looking at what's happening this week, this month. What I want to see from politicians is the 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, because the issues that we're faced now are things that are going to affect my children and their children, and that's what I'm concerned about, and it frustrates me.
Be done, and dinosaurs like Tony Abbott are doing nothing to, to do something positive about climate change and move forward, and that's why it's our prime focus to get rid of the old nuisance.
In traditionally more conservative rural areas, climate-hit farmers are demanding action. And in several rich suburbs, a generational shift has seen eco-minded candidates running Liberal Party luminaries close. In northern Sydney, former Prime Minister Tony Abbott appears at risk of losing a seat he has held for more than 2 decades to independent challenger Zali Steggall, a lawyer and Olympic medalist in alpine skiing. Early rising voters in the constituency trickled into a beachside surf club to cast their ballots as volunteers wearing bright orange, "I'm a climate voter" t-shirt handed out pamphlets. Shorten has pledged quick legislation to increase renewable energy. while the Liberals said they would not risk the coal-fueled economy's health to make the air cleaner. Australia is among the world's largest exporters of coal, providing thousands of jobs in the northeast of the country.
25 years, there are a lot of people that are ready for a different representation, and I think a different style of politics from the area, a different contribution from Warringah.
If we try to go further than 26 to 28%, we're going to do ourselves a lot of economic damage without affecting global emissions. So I think what politicians have got to do is get the balance right.
Kinshasa residents decry the rivers of plastic waste taking over the city's waterways, where thousands of plastic bottles have piled up over the years, causing deadly floods when it rains.
Ebandi depuis 2004-2003. Ba salité oyo ko boaka nde bato abando boaka to yango moko le mbule po le mbule be omona mutu nyonso tu azwa cantine ya salité aya boaka na kalamu.
Oui, mais ça vient de la pluie. Quand la pluie tombe, la pluie ramasse tous les saletés qui est dans des canaux et ça commence à rejeter. Alors c'est pour cela vous voyez.
De la ville, il faut qu'on choisisse des endroits là, il faut aller jeter des immondices. Et non pas qu'on les jette dans les rues, dans les caniveaux. Ça nous cause. Maintenant, il y a des inondations partout dans des parcelles. Tu vois ce que...
Alleged victims react after the release on bail of Frédéric Pessière, the French doctor charged in 24 cases of poisoning patients, 9 of which resulted in death, while working as an anesthetist at 2 private clinics in the eastern French city of Besançon.
2 années où nous avons dû revivre nos traumatismes, 2 années faites de rebondissements, d'attente de nouveaux rebondissements, pour aujourd'hui apprendre qu'après l'ajout de 17 nouveaux cas, dont au total 24, M. Péchier reste libre et pour cette raison, nous avons envie de demander des comptes à la justice. Pour nous, les victimes, il y a injustice face à cette décision parce que certains ont perdu un proche, d'autres vivent chaque jour avec leurs séquelles. Et pour toutes ces personnes, il est impossible de faire abstraction à ce qui est arrivé pendant que le mis en cause est libre. Le plus difficile, il a été fait, j'ai envie de dire. Tous les gens qui ont été victimes d'arrêt cardiaque, qui ont eu des problèmes de santé, qui en ont encore aujourd'hui, c'est là qu'est la difficulté. Le jour où on aura la vérité, ce sera un soulagement, ce ne sera pas une difficulté, non.
One of his lawyers said a French doctor already under investigation for poisoning 7 patients has been charged with poisoning 17 more people at a clinic in eastern France. 47-year-old Frédéric Pessière now stands charged in 24 cases, 9 of which resulted in death, after working as an anesthesiologist at 2 private clinics in the eastern French city of Besançon. If convicted, Pessière could face a life sentence. Pessière was freed overnight on conditional release. Public prosecutor Etienne Mantour had called for the doctor, who faces a life sentence if convicted, to be held in custody. Another of his lawyers, Jean-Yves Leborn, told reporters on Thursday there is a possibility that Dr. Pessière was the author of these poisonings, but this hypothesis is nothing but a hypothesis, and this long inquiry over 2 years has shown nothing, to the extent that in this instance, the presumption of innocence must be stressed. Pessière, first charged in 2017 for 2 deaths and 7 poisoning cases over the previous 10 years, was brought in for questioning this week over 66 more suspicious cardiac arrests during operations on patients otherwise considered low risk. Prosecutor Mantour told a press conference 17 cases have been retained, involving patients aged 4 to 80, of whom 7 died after doctors were unable to revive them. Mantour said Pessière was the common denominator in the new cases, which occurred at a time when he was in open conflict with fellow anesthesiologists at the St. Vincent Clinic in Besançon. He said he was most often found close to the operating block when the cases occurred and made quick diagnosis of the problem and the action to take, even when nothing allowed anyone to suspect an overdose of potassium or local anesthesia. Prosecutors have alleged he may have tampered with his colleagues' anesthesia pouches to create operating room emergencies where he could then intervene to show off his supposed talents. Peshier's lawyers have denied the claims. In November, they accused police of altering declarations he made during his initial questioning. During questioning this week, Manteau said Peschier acknowledged that criminal acts had taken place at St. Vincent, but that he was not responsible for these poisonings. Parents nervously watch as their children wait to be tested for HIV in a village in southern Pakistan, where hundreds of people have been allegedly infected by a doctor using a contaminated syringe. Dispatched to keep order, police scanned the anxious crowd as families hustle into one of 5 different screening rooms set up in the last month in the village of Wasayo, on the outskirts of Larkana in Sindh province. Health officials say more than 400 people, many of them children, have tested HIV positive in recent weeks as experts warn of a surge in infection rates across Pakistan due to the use of unsanitary equipment and rampant malpractice, often at the hands of squawk doctors.
को छोड़ के बाकी 9 दिन की स्क्रीनिंग बताते हैं। हमने 9 दिन में 4703 4703 लोगों की स्क्रीनिंग की है, उसमें 185 पॉजिटिव आए, उसमें ज़्यादा बड़ी तादाद जो है बच्चों की।
Anger and fear continue to swell in the desperately poor village hit hard by the epidemic, which authorities say could be linked to either gross negligence or malicious intent by a local pediatrician. Beset by a lack of equipment and personnel to treat the surging numbers of patients, a doctor at the makeshift clinic said they are coming by the dozens. Others worry their children's futures have been irreparably harmed after contracting HIV, especially in a country whose masses of rural poor have little understanding of the disease or access to treatment.
परेशान हो गई, दूसरे बच्चे हैं मेरे, कहते हैं ये शादी नहीं करेंगे, कहते हैं ये बड़ी होकर दूसरों बच्चों को ये बीमारी वायरलेस है, दूसरों बच्चों को भी होगी, 5 मेरे दूसरे बच्चे भी हैं, फिर मैं क्या करूं, अब तो मुझे कुछ समझ में ही नहीं आता है।
फिर मैंने इनको टेस्ट कराया, लड़का ने कहा कि HIV है, इसे सारे बच्चों को लग जाएगी, मुझे भी नहीं है HIV, मेरे शौहर को भी नहीं है, मेरी बच्ची एक को है।
Coming up, for Venezuelan chronic patients, humanitarian aid is a distant prospect. Born under IS, sick Iraqi children are left undocumented and untreated. Dr. Katie Bauman says the first black hole image was hugely significant. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. For Venezuelan chronic patients, humanitarian aid is a distant prospect. Sara Rodriguez suffers from Parkinson's disease, but with the current crisis in Venezuela, she has to ration her medications and doesn't know whether she will receive any humanitarian aid.
Pero mientras tanto, entonces estoy engarrotada que no puedo hacer nada. Nada, no puedo hacer nada. Caminar me cuesta, sentarme me duelen las articulaciones. Me acuesto y entonces me siento que estoy ahí atrapada. Y esas cosas, pero de Parkinson no han dicho nada. Ni sabemos si ya viene o no viene algún medicamento para nosotros allí. Somos 300.000 personas que posiblemente en Venezuela tengamos Parkinson.
Ante la carencia casi absoluta del medicamento para la enfermedad de Parkinson, hoy en Venezuela el 80% de los pacientes con enfermedad de Parkinson se encuentran encamados o discapacitados, que no pueden valerse por sí mismos.
No documents, no doctor. Without state-issued IDs, Iraqi mothers struggle to have children born under the now-defeated Islamic State group, treated for conditions ranging from asthma to epilepsy.
عندي طفل مريض يعني صرع، عندي طفلة ما عندها هوية، هو صرع وتوحد شحنة كهربائية زايدة أو جنسية ما عنده، جنسية ما عنده يعني، وإحنا حالتنا المادية تعبانة حيل يعني.
عندنا ناس محجوزة مستمسكاتهم عليهم مثل مؤشر أمني، جابهم من المراكز وسكنهم هنا، ممنوع يطلعون المخيم، والله أنت محجوز وعندهم هذا المرض، هاي الحالة، أو عنده مرض السرطان أو أمراض جلدية، ممنوع يطلع.
صار 7 أشهر نريد نطلع مستمسك ما يقبلون، كوننا احنا عوائل دواعش ما ينطونا مستمسك، ولا يعني حتى يعني على المحامين قالوا لنا ما دام انت عوائل دواعش ما يسمحون لنا نطلع لكم مستمسكات. والله يأثر عليهم من كل النواحي، من الناحية الأمنية، الاقتصادية، الصحية، الدراسة، من كل النواحي.
So our recent report found that 45,000 children in displacement camps alone are lacking civil documents, including birth certificates. What this means is that these children are at risk of statelessness and at risk of being sentenced to a life on the margins of Iraqi society. It means that they may not be able to access healthcare, public education, assistance from the government. In the future, they may not be able to access formal employment, own property, or even travel freely across the country.
U.S. computer scientist Katie Bauman, who became a global sensation over her role in generating the world's first image of a black hole, describes the discovery of the result as truly amazing and one of her life's happiest memories.
Seeing these images for the first time was truly amazing and one of my life's happiest memories. This test was hugely significant. Although each picture looked slightly different, we found the same asymmetric ring structure, no matter what method or person reconstructed the data. This picture has really captured the imaginations of a generation of new young scientists. And I've even had, 4-year-old girls come up to me and tell me about the black hole and being able to see the results. And I really loved being able to work on problems where you can visualize your results. And so from that, I kind of gained a love of imaging and images, and that drove me in my future, my path towards studying electrical engineering and computer science, computer vision, and eventually being on the Event Horizon Telescope project. So at its core, it's a science project. We're trying to learn about black holes, and there we need theorists to tell us, what do we expect? But also, it's an engineering project. We spent over a decade building a telescope with new instrumentation that had to be put together. And because it is a computational telescope, we also had to develop algorithms. And this requires us to understand computation and optimization and many different kind of how do all these pieces play together and come together to give us this kind of amazing result. So we really had to have, instrumentation, algorithms, theory. It was really each part was essential.
When we come back, Toronto Comic Arts Festival, or TCAF, celebrates emerging artists. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return shortly. Stay with us. This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I am Rose Papa Angeles. The 2019 Toronto Comic Arts Festival, or TCAF, brings together thousands of creators and fans as they celebrate emerging artists who work using their strong personal voices. Eagle News correspondent Trisha Kadai with more.
With great power comes great responsibility. Wise words of the uncle of fictional character Spider-Man, one of the many characters created by the Marvel Universe master Stan Lee. Today, here at the Toronto Reference Library, the annual 2019 Toronto Comic Arts Festival is happening, where fans of comic books, graphic novels, visual arts, and their creators from around the world walk and talk side by side. Hundreds of comic creators across the world assemble at the Toronto Reference Library to express their creative work to the comic lovers community.
So last year we had about 26,000 across all festival events. Based on my gut feeling this year, I think we're going to hit 27,000 this year. We have a real focus on creators who have a strong personal voice, who are working on their own properties, rather than a work for hire or a licensed property. We do have many creators here who have worked on licensed properties or are famous for their licensed properties, of course, but when they're here at the festival, they're here to celebrate the work that they own and the work that they've created. And through our various sort of programming areas, we support emerging artists as well.
TCAF is a great way to find artists you've never heard of before, as kind of what I just said. Even if you don't check out every single guest on the website, if you just come and walk around, you're going to find something very cool, something you've never seen before, something that really inspires you, that makes you want to pick it up and go, wow, I love art, I want to do art.
It's really good. I think just the differences in creators and just kind of from all levels, people that you may have known. I know some from just the books that my daughter is interested in, as well as brand new people that I'm getting to know here.
Unlike other comic conventions, the TCAF focuses on alternative and independent comics, including visual arts. This festival consists of art installations, gallery shows, vendor fair, workshops, and panel discussions, allowing creators to tell their stories in diverse voices and inspire future generations.
I just really love working with materials and experimenting, and I like that in comics you can really play around with both narrative and structure as well as visual language and communication. It's like just a really unique medium where you're really playing with all those different things.
The challenges I face, it would be the saturation of the market. There's a lot of illustrators, a lot of good illustrators out there, so it's really hard to kind of make a living very easily, so you really have to find different avenues to be unique.
Every year, the Toronto Comic Arts Festival brings comic creators from various countries together to celebrate their works and share their stories through interaction and genre appreciation with the fan community. For Eagle News, reporting from Toronto, Canada, this is Patricia Kadai, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Trisha. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at Eaglenews.PH and EagleNewsLive.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I am Rose Papa Angeles, and I am 1 with 25.